And they're like, a lot of things can change in 3 years, Mr. Previous Captain Butler man, sir. Hey everyone, hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about the Syrup Village arc in One Piece. This runs from chapters 22 to 42, I believe. 22 to 41, I misspoke, in the One Piece saga, I suppose. I'm not really even sure what the whole thing is about. Maybe the One Piece story. And I'm excited to talk about this arc. Now, if you are new to my channel, then hi, welcome. My name is Shelly, and I really, really love books and reading, and I love talking about what I'm reading. And this kind of video is very emblematic of the kinds of videos that I make on my channel. A deep dive into what I've read and giving you some detailed thoughts about that. If that is also your jam, if you're enjoying this video, I would encourage you to subscribe and stick around. Now, without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. I never wear myself styled like this, but I think I was really intrigued and maybe inspired by Zoro because he's always wearing a bandana. It's like, well, not always. He looks very adorable without his bandana, but I like when it's like he means business when he's got his bandana on. And so I was like, I want to wear my hair like that. Now, is it Zoro or am I just trying to look like a Biba girl from like the 1920s? Who knows? Because I also really love that look. Maybe it's the two combined. Biba girl meets Zoro from One Piece, and that is me today. So we have that. And yeah, let's just get into this. This whole video is going to be the Syrup Village arc. However, at this point in this moment that I'm checking in with you, I've only read half of the arc. I'm at chapter 33. However, I'm having so many thoughts and queries in my own heart and self. I am worried that I will forget to report back about all of my thoughts. And my first thought is that in chapter, what is it, 22, at the very beginning, we have like this interesting interlude chapter. Our little gang, our 3-member pirate Luffy's pirates, Luffy himself, Zoro, and Nami, they make it to an island and they hear a strange voice. And they meet Gaimon, you know, the guy who's like stuck in the treasure chest. And again, we get this iteration about, you know, what we give up for treasure, the extent we're willing to go to in order to get treasure. And what is treasure anyways? You know, is treasure actual treasure, or are we just going to find empty treasure boxes at the end of it all? And it was an interesting chapter, but mostly I was curious that structurally it's just one chapter. It's this like one momentary interlude on this journey, and we move on from there within that chapter. Like, that's it. It's this little self-contained story, and then we've moved on. And I don't think that we've seen that thus far in the story. Also, I've been thinking about how I really want to go back and read like the first chapter again, because I know I missed things, partly because you all have been so kind in as to talk about, you know, the nature of the devil fruit and just Shanks and, you know, his involvement in Luffy's life. I just need to go back and read it, and maybe I should read it like on camera, and then I can sort of metacognitively explain what I missed on camera with you all, and then we can like move on from there. So I don't know. I am getting over some sickness, and so I might be even more scattered than normal, if that's even possible. So we get this chapter where we meet, yeah, and again, the design is so playful. It's this man who's literally cramped inside of a treasure box. And it's, you know, it's like, Luffy does save the day because he ends up getting the treasure boxes down only to find that they're empty. And it was an interesting and sort of odd interlude to see. And then it's like the actual story starts. Some of you have been asking or at least mentioning the SBS at the end of the chapters and whether I was reading them or not. The first SBS, the questions corner and we have answers, and it's from Oda's mailbag, in which fans write into Oda and then he responds. And what was interesting about the SBS is that they don't start until like chapter 25 or so. And I have been reading the end chapter notes. Sometimes they were a quick sketch of an initial drawing that ends up turning into a scene that makes it into the chapter that I just read, or that the people have just read, or that has just been included in that chapter. Sometimes it's like initial sketches, sometimes it was little facts, like where Oda's love for pirates came from, and I've always been very diligent as to reading them, and then I noticed that some of you all were talking about the SBSs, and I was like, what is that? I mean, in my heart, I was like, what is that? But I figured I would get to it soon enough. And, you know, come to find out, it's this delightful, at the end of you all know what it is. At the end of the chapter, there is questions that Oda gets, and then he answers them. And what's delightful is that there is such a sincerity to his writing when he's writing back to fans. It's silly and lighthearted and in no way condescending. I hate condescension with a passion. And it seems like he takes it all in such beautiful stride and that he really honors his fans. And I love that. Like, I am all about that. And there's just a lightness to it all. But I did want to mention that one thing I noticed, and then it popped up in an SBS, is that with, I think, the first like 20 chapters, I'll have to go back again and look at some of the earlier chapters because I wasn't really sure what I was reading, and I know I missed stuff. But for the majority of the first 20 chapters, there is an animal included on the cover of the chapter heading, or like the chapter page. And they're often like rather silly, lighthearted, funny drawings, and they run the gamut. There's like monkeys and birds and elephants and cows and all kinds of animals. And I had wondered, does Oda really like animals? Does he have like an affection, or is there just something, like, does he have a connection to the animal world, you know? Maybe he really loves like the animal kingdom and he, you know, honors that in his drawings or something. And I noticed that in an SBS, another person asked that as well. And it was cute because he was like, well, I love animals as much as the next person. However, I like to draw animals. And I was like, I love that. I was like, that is fantastic. And just that he was like, he just likes to draw around fluffy things. And I was like, I respect that. I respect that, Oda. And so that really answered my own question about, you know, why is there an animal included on all of these covers? And that it really comes from his sense of playfulness and what he loves to draw, and I just thought that was fantastic. Okay, let's actually get into the Syrup Village arc. I don't know why I'm having trouble. I want to say syrup, and then I also want to say syrup and syrup. Maybe it's just because I like to practice my pronunciations clearly in these videos. So with this arc, we immediately get a trope, or what I feel like is a familiar scene, and it's like the boy who cried wolf scene. And there's this guy that actually is now featured heavily in the chapter. Again, I'm only halfway through at this moment, and it's Usopp, Usopp, I believe. And he is known to be like the liar of the village. And actually this brings me to what I think one of the main themes is in this story. And it's about, it's like there's like 5 ways to say it. So maybe I'll spitfire all of them right now, but it's like the duality of our natures, or the nuance of our lives, the nuance that everyone has in their own lives, or that nothing is as it seems. I think that's the three best ways to say it. Things are not always as they seem, the duality of our lives, or everything has a nuance. And so we get this guy, the liar, that he called in his like character display, he is a village youth, which is like, okay. And he, you know, he's again, I don't think I was as enamored with some of the character designs as I have been in the past. But, you know, he's distinctive. He also is wearing a bandana, and he's got this curly hair and these boots and a sash and all of that. And, you know, he's a liar. And actually it was sort of funny because he wants to, you know, he meets up with Luffy and Nami and Zoro, and he wants to join their team. And they're like, no. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, mister. You cannot. And I thought that was such a, you know, so far we've seen Luffy who's like, I want you on my team. Please join my team with Zoro and Nami. And they're like, catch me at a different time. And, you know, it eventually, they come around and they join Luffy's team. And we're getting like the total opposite. This, you know, Usopp desperately wants to join a group of pirates, or at least Luffy's group of pirates, and they're rejecting him left, right, and everywhere. So one of the reasons why I thought that nothing is as it seems is that I had come to believe, or I had assumed, I guess that was probably the right word, I had made this assumption that Usopp, our village youth, the liar, that he didn't have any good qualities. I guess maybe I wrongly assumed that. I was like, oh, he's a kid that spreads falsities, you know. Maybe there's nothing good about him. And then we find out that the stories that he tells, even though he tells them to alert the village when there is no harm being done, and that his lies, you know, you could say cause harm, that they actually do some good as well, because he spins these stories out to this young lady. What is her name? Kaya, or Kaya? Kaya? I see my like Americanized accent. It's like Kaya. But anyways, the mistress of the mansion. And so we have the two of them, and he delights her with his stories, and he entertains her. And I thought that was so interesting, because it's taking this skill that is often looked down upon, that is often, you know, seen poorly in society, and it's flipping it on its head, because, you know, he's an entertainer, and in a lot of ways, like, he is using it for a lot of good and building connections and building a relationship. And that was kind of like the first surprise. The second surprise comes from Klahadore. I'm just saying it over and over again. The butler, who I think has probably my favorite? He has like my favorite design of this, you know, arc so far. I think he's wearing a black suit that has what looks like poop on the front of the jacket, and then in an SBS, someone asked, like, is that drawing intended to look like excrement, or is it supposed to be something else? And Oda was like, no, it's supposed to be poop. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, he's got this slick back hair and these tiny spectacles, and the collar, his collar, has these little, it's like this swirly detail, which I just, you know, I liked. This is all of the little details, you know? And then these striped shoes. I quite like him. And initially you think that he is trying to look out for the mistress, and that he is trying to protect her from the liar of the village. And we come to find out that the butler is the villain of this story, and that he has been plotting a revenge against the mistress and her family for 3 years, like quite quite a long plot, and it just fed into the theme of the story, like the duality of ourselves or our lives. Nothing is as it seems, yet another surprise. And so I thought, I feel like I am being pleasantly sort of tricked, or very pleasantly surprised that Oda is creating kind of like this false sense about the character only to reveal something about them later that is like totally different than what I had thought. The third instance of this nothing is as it seems trope is the Django, the hypnotist, who I think it's like the butler and the hypnotist are competing for my favorite character designs, because he looks like a washed up rock star that has decided to braid his chin hair in a very eccentric way and dye it with stripes, and he has these like hurt sunglasses. Like, I cannot get the idea of a washed up rock star out of my mind. He's like a bad hypnotist. And then we find out later that, you know, he is actually the acting captain while the butler is trying to enact this really long plan to get all of the mistress's money, because the butler is the actual captain of the ship, but then because he's off being a butler or not being the captain, who's taking over being captain? And it's Django, the hypnotist, or the second in command, or the first in command, in lieu of the butler being gone. You get what I mean? It's all convoluted. Well, not convoluted. It's all like, it's all twisty, turny, and it's just fantastic. Like, it's fantastic. And again, it fed into the theme of nothing is as it seems. Also, I mean, he's not just a hypnotist. It's like he's a bad hypnotist. It's just that you know, there's a couple things that got me in this story so far, in this arc so far, and that was one of them. It was like, you know, he not only hypnotizes others, he hypnotizes himself. A couple of you have mentioned how Luffy just speaks his mind, and so they overhear the butler and the hypnotist talking about the plan that they've been working on for the last 3 years. They, as in Usopp and Luffy, have overheard this evil plan to kill the mistress, and then, you know, they're discovered, and the butler's like, did you hear anything interesting? And the liar Usopp, I'm feeling self-conscious about that, but anyways, he was like, no, we haven't heard anything. We were just passing by. And then Luffy just sitting there, and he's like, we heard everything. I'm like, oh my gosh. Luffy, true speaker right there. I really admire the fact that he just says what's on his mind. Also, hilariously, in SBS was like, they asked a question about Luffy, and Oda straight up said, like, Luffy's not very smart. I think he even just said he's kind of dumb. And I was like, what? Which in some ways was funny, but I think it's almost in this way, I feel like maybe it's a nod to being a little bit childlike. And maybe I'm giving Luffy too much credit, I don't know. But like, it's this sense that like, I don't know, like why, like Luffy is the opposite of this theme, right? I didn't really think about this till now, but there is no duality in Luffy. He is like, straight up, what you see is what you get. Whatever is on his mind, he says out loud. You know, he is just straightforward, and there's not like these hidden meanings and hidden desires underneath it all. It's like he's all right there on the surface living his life. And there's something beautiful about that, you know? There's something really beautiful about that. And so he really creates such a good foil in this convoluted story that is all about duality and the mixed up natures of ourselves, and nothing is as it seems, because he's just like, what? No, like, we heard it all. What are you talking about? We heard your plan. We know what you're doing. It's not right. And it's just, you know, it adds comic relief, and it adds some levity as to what, you know, to what's going on. But I just love that, and I thought, gosh, he's almost like the opposite of the theme, which, again, I didn't think about until now. Another theme so far, even though I'm barely tiptoeing into this, you know, epic saga, is what each, you know, the things that we individuals find precious, or what we find as treasure. And it's like Usopp the liar, you know, he, in one of the panels, he says, I may be a liar, but this time my tale will come true. And then he says, they can shoot me in the arm, the townspeople, they can shoot me in the arm, they can chase me with brooms, but this village is my home. And I thought that revealed quite a bit about what is meaningful to him. And it's like, even if he's treated poorly, you know, he still values this idea of home and this belonging, even if his place in the town is as the town's tall teller, which I love. Of course, my camera cut me off. I just felt a lot of compassion for Usopp in that moment, and I just thought it revealed a little bit about him. Again, you know, it's like he's deeper than I initially thought. I mean, initially I thought he was like the boy who cried wolf, and he was so much more than that, you know? And then, you know, the story starts to come together, and we're gearing towards a battle scene, and Luffy, Zoro, and Nami decide to help Usopp. And, oh, and I think I didn't mention, but I ought to have, but Usopp has, Usopp. Anyways, his dad was a pirate, is a pirate. His dad's a pirate, and he feels very connected to pirates. And Luffy actually knew his dad, and Luffy knew his dad. Luffy as a child knew his dad, and the dad mentioned that he had a son about Luffy's age, and expressed some regret for not being around his kid. And, you know, and then, you know, Luffy crosses paths with said kid later on. And so, I want to read that first chapter because I feel like, you know, was it a flashback that actually existed? I don't know. Or like, I don't know. I just need to like go back and see, because this is the kind of reader that I am. But anyways, so the Luffy and Zoro and Nami, they decide to help Usopp fight the bad guys, and Usopp says, you know, are you doing it out of pity? And, you know, Luffy says, who'd risk their life out of pity? And I was like, amen. Amen. Yes. I don't like pitiful things. I don't like pitiful characters. I think that, you know, pity is just one of those things that like, ugh. You know, when you pity somebody, it's like one of the worst. It's the worst. And so I thought that was interesting. He had enough pride to be like, ask Luffy and the rest of them, are you doing this out of pity? Do not pity me. And Luffy was like, no, no. We would not be trying to fight to the death. Well, fight to winning, as Oda says, because Oda was like, somebody was like, why doesn't Luffy kill the bad guys, like, in battle? And Oda was like, no, it's not about killing. It's not about killing the bad guys. It's really just about winning the fight. So it's like, you wouldn't start a fight unless you want to win, and you don't start a fight out of pity. I was like, I like that. Thus far, we haven't had a lot of commentary about gender. I wonder if that's going to change. There is this moment where Usopp goes, okay, go attack them, I'll back you up. And he says that to Nami, and Nami goes, what? Why me? And then she says, what can I do against an army of ruthless cutthroats? I'm only a girl. Which I thought was so funny because she's, you know, she's a thief, and she's totally done her own share of fighting against ruthless cutthroats, or at least trickstering them. And then Usopp goes, you don't expect me to do it just because I'm a man. And then, you know, he's like, look how scared I am. My knees are shaking. And, you know, I just thought that was funny. It was like, I don't know, it was this little moment about gender, and she's like, I can't, you know, she uses her gender to be like, I can't do that, I'm a girl. And then he's like, well, I can't do it just because I'm a man. And he's like, look, I'm doing the non-manly thing. I'm like shaking in my boots. And I just thought that was funny and delightful. But the funniest moment thus far for me was, they're like, the Black Cat, you know, pirates, the pirates of the Black Cat are at the north of the island, and Luffy starts running, and he's like, "Where's North?" He doesn't know where North is. And I was like, oh my gosh, Luffy, you can't even, I can't even with you, child. But it was just so funny because he just, I don't know, it was just the comic relief that I needed. Again, Luffy busting out with the thing that makes me laugh the most. Oh, and then yet again, my last thought is going to be something that fed into Nothing Is As It Seems. So we meet two of the Black Cat's, you know, cronies. We have Butchie the ship guard and Siam, you know, another ship guard, the cat guy. And, you know, at first he seems the one who's dressed up like a cat, although are they both cats? Definitely animals of some sort. But then it's like he at first doesn't seem like he can fight at all, or he doesn't seem dangerous. And then we find out that, you know, he's a thief. He's a burglar. He steals Zoro's swords. And that, again, sort of flips it on his head. At first, it's like you didn't think, at least I didn't think, that he would be able to do anything meaningful. And then what do you know? He does something that really kind of hinders Zoro in his fighting skills. Zoro was not nearly as powerful without all of his swords as he is with all of his swords. So I thought that was really interesting because I didn't, again, it was unexpected. It flipped, like I made an assumption, or maybe Oda led me to believe an assumption about the cat, you know, bad guy. Siam, something like that, or and what ended up happening was that he ends up being a little more dangerous and a little more hard to kill than one would expect. And then it's like, even like Zoro slashes the cat guy, and, you know, it doesn't even hurt him because he's wearing like this oversized shirt. I was like, oh my goodness, y'all, oh my goodness. Wait, one more thing. So as they're about to start fighting, all of a sudden the crew turns on the butler, and they're like, a lot of things can change in 3 years, Mr. Previous Captain Butler man, sir. And they're like, maybe there'll be a mutiny on your hands. And again, it's like it all twists and turns. He's just like, aha, this thing and then this thing. It's like, you thought the cat couldn't fight, and then he steals Zoro's swords. You think that they're all gonna be like hardcore for their captain who has had this plan set in place for 3 years? Haha, just kidding. They're actually going to have a mutiny against him, and, you know, Django's gonna be their new captain. So it's just like all this change, and I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect it in the least. So these are all of my stream of consciousness thoughts up until chapter 33. I'm sure I'll come back around for the rest, but I had so much to fill you all in on. Clearly, I did not want to forget a single moment of it all, so I wanted to check in now, and I'm sure I will probably be looking a little less Zoro-y, you know, the next time I see you. Hey y'all, hi. Okay, so I'm back. I finished the Syrup Village arc, and oh boy, did it have some twists and turns. So I think where I had left off, there was a mutiny on Clawhadore's hands, and yes, it is Claw. Like, that's one of the things I put together, was that the whole theme of this village, or the Butler's pirates, is that, you know, he has these sword claw fingers, and his nickname is a pun on like claws, so Clawhadore. They have, isn't their ship the Black Cat or something like that? But at the front of their ship, they have a cat, you know, emblem or figure. And then, you know, a lot of the cronies, they're dressed up as cats. And so it's a very like meow heavy, feline heavy arc, and that was really a delight. Like, I was starting to put it all together, and I was like, oh, cats. Like, there's like a lot of cat puns, like when they're fighting, it's like meow, or you know, it was great. It was great. And so when I finally was like getting it and putting it together, I was like, this is fantastic. So I got it. It's like Clawhadore. And then they even said it like in the story, they mentioned that Claw is like CLAW. Lots of twists and turns, and one of which is something that you all asked me to pay attention to, or like gave me some hints to pay attention to. You were like, pay attention to the art cover work, the cover art. The art, not just the covers, but like the art at the beginning of the chapters, because it will help kind of close some story loops in the future. And what do you know? We get Buggy, or as I like to say, bougie. Buggy is quite bougie. But anyways, we get Buggy, and we find out over the next like several, like the front cover of every chapter, that we get his story. And oh my gosh, did they crack me up. So I was just shocked. At the beginning of chapter 35, we see Buggy in his little boat being chased by some dangerous looking fish, and that was delightful just to like see him again. I didn't think that I would react that way to seeing Buggy again, but I was like, oh, there's Buggy. And then and that was amazing. But I kid you not, Buggy, I think it's him. Yeah, he's carrying this got me so good. He's carrying a fork and knife. And of course he doesn't have like his torso or limbs. He just has his like hands and feet, you know, attached somehow to his head. And he's like running after a bird. And it's just amazing. That got me so good. That got me so good. I was like, poor Buggy, not having his full body. But you know, still making do and trying to eat. That one just really got me in my tickle bone. I was just laughing so hard. So I was so glad to see Buggy again, and I was really looking forward to the start of every new chapter, knowing that I would probably get a new segment of like what Buggy is up to. Who knew? Like who knew? Who knew I would be so enamored with a character named Buggy? I was really on this whole like duality, or like the unfolding, the unexpected unfolding of ourselves or a story. Like this whole arc has a lot of twists and turns in it. And I think one of the biggest twists and turns was when the butler admits that he wanted to kill his pirate self. Like it was tiring, sort of frustrating, and what I consider like soulless work, according to, it was just tiring. It was tiring. It was tiring for the butler to continue to do his pirating, to continue to lead a band of pirates, and he was tired of it. Like he was tired of that life, and he wanted something different for himself. So he like obviously cooked up this 3-year plan and was trying to enact it, in which he could truly start over. And I thought that that was fascinating. I think it was like the biggest twist. It's like he didn't even want to get her treasure and continue to go back, you know, on the seas and find more treasure or whatnot. He really wanted a fresh start. And he's like fighting everybody. Like he pushed everyone away, and he's like fighting everybody to enact this dream that he has for himself, which was interesting. And the fight scenes were fantastic. It was like almost like X-Men or Wolverine, right? He has like the claws that come out of his hands. That I feel like Klahadore is very much inspired by, or maybe not, who knows, but is inspired by what my imagination thinks is Wolverine. Or like that's how I know it, you know, like I was introduced to Wolverine first in my life as an American person, like keeping up with, you know, superhero lore more than manga lore. And then I meet Klahadore, and so then I feel like Klahadore is inspired by Wolverine, even if that's not necessarily true. And so, you know, the fight scenes were really interesting because he has, you know, all these swords on his fingers, like nails on a cat's paw. And, you know, he's against Gum Gum Boy, you know, the boy that stretches. And man, Luffy is just so funny. he's just, and if you hear sickness in me, I have been sick. So I am feeling a lot better, but I am getting over it. But yeah, so he's, you know, so it's just like, it's this epic battle of this feline, trickstery, powerful, also like strangely dark and sullen butler against the lighthearted, goofy, like sort of doesn't think too hard about it, Luffy. And it is the fight. It is a fight scene. It is a fight scene. I really don't know how to talk about action scenes. Like as it's unfolding, I am enjoying it and I'm like in it. I think my favorite one thus far is still between Luffy and Buggy, because it was like two people with devil fruit powers like battling it out. And so the battle just took such weird twists and turns that it was delightful and surprising. Whereas this, I felt like was just more of a straightforward type of battle. This arc was full of surprises. Another wonderful surprise, maybe more than the butler wanting a new life, but was Usopp asking his little pirate buds, his his crew members, the little boys of the town, to keep a secret and to not tell everybody that he saved the town. And I thought, what a lovely twist on a lie, and what a, it was a surprise. It was a surprise. Again, I think, culturally, perhaps, maybe this is culturally, maybe this is just how I grew up, but it's like any kind of lie, whatever it is bad, and it's so dichotomous and it's so like lying bad, truth good, and it's kind of interesting because we're seeing the lines being blurred here, even at this level. And I just think that that's, in a way very deep. Perhaps like the main theme though, because I know I keep on saying like the duality of our lives or the way that things unfold unexpectedly. But truly the last sort of bit comes from a conversation that Kaya has with her other helper person, the one who gets beat up, not the butler, but the other one. And they're having a conversation about Usopp. And here we find out that Usopp's mother ends up, she passes away. And that his father, being a pirate, was supposed to come back and take them away. And, to have lost someone so dear to him. So Usopp continues to say the pirates are coming, and this is how it was explained. And so what the Kaya's helper person says is that he continued to shout that warning, the warning of the pirates are coming, perhaps in despair long after his mother died, hoping that one day the ship carrying his father would appear off the coast and take him away. In that lie was his strongest desire. Living in this village, having lost both his parents, I suppose he had to create his own hope. And then it continues. But I was thinking about perhaps the real theme to this arc is the lies we are willing to believe, the untruths we are willing to buy into in order to create a little hope for ourselves. And I think that we see that with both of the sort of stars, or like the main characters of this arc. We see that with the butler, in that he is creating hope by creating this elaborate evil, evil sort of in quotes. Well, yeah, evil because he's trying to kill people. But like he wants to do away with everyone else, and he believes that he can do that in order to have the hope that he can actually start a new life. And that Usopp is willing to truly, be a lot more bold, a lot less subversive, by screaming the pirates are coming and by telling tall tales constantly in order to create the hope that, that he has a parent, that he has a sense of belonging or a place in this world. And I thought that was far deeper. And I think in some ways it's all about the idea too that like perhaps you know, we are more willing to believe in untruth if it gives us a sort of a seedling of hope to grasp onto. And, you know, and so I don't know, in a lot of ways it was so much deeper. It was so much more like complex and meaningful than I thought. You know, here I was at the beginning of this arc thinking that Yusuf is just the boy who cried wolf, which is in a lot of ways a very one-dimensional, straightforward tale about not to tell a lie. But then here we are seeing that that lie, the lies that Yusuf was telling himself, had purpose and was rooted in good in a lot of ways. So again, very kind of deeper than I thought at the end. And then at the very, very end of it all, Yusuf joins the team, which again, the whole thing about like the duality or like the twists and turns that life throws us, or the twists and turns of our lives. I promise, I cannot promise I'll have a more clear-cut concept of the theme. It might always be this scrambled, but the unfolding duality of our lives continues because, you know, Yusuf, at the beginning, I was like, there's no way this guy is going to get on Luffy's crew. There's no way. And here he is, he's joining the crew, and not only, like, they want him there, you know, they want him there. And then his legend, the Liar's legend continues with his former shipmates, the little boys in town, running and screaming to the townspeople, the pirates are coming. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for this addition to the crew and the complexities in which he adds to our crew members. I wonder if his deepest, greatest desire, because it seems like each individual person on Luffy's crew has a deepest, most personal desire. I wonder if his is to, you know, see his father, or to, you know, finally make his father proud in a way. So yeah, I mean, so lots of twists and turns here. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for, tell me your thoughts. I shared for a very long time. It's your turn. It's your turn. Please let me know what you thought about all this. But yeah, I'm just gonna say thank you for watching. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I deeply appreciate it. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye.